1 minute smarter, every market clearer. Welcome to my channel, I'm Claire. Welcome back to our deep dive channel. Today, I want to talk about a topic at the center of a storm, Tesla's Endgame. Recently, Elon Musk dropped a bombshell on X, once again mentioning his famous bet with Bill Gates. I find this point quite fascinating. Musk revealed that Gates held a massive short position against Tesla, accounting for about 1% of the total shares, a gamble that may have already cost Gates over $10 billion. Let's look closely at the logic behind this. Musk issued a direct warning about a month ago, urging Gates to close his 8-year-old short position as soon as possible. His confidence in giving this advice stems from the upcoming release of FSD version V14. Interestingly, data shows that Musk views V14 as the core, short-squeeze catalyst that will trigger a revaluation of the stock. This confidence isn't coming out of nowhere. It represents how technical breakthroughs translate directly into lethality in financial markets, turning a simple financial investment into a life-and-death gamble over the future path of technology. However, as independent financial observers, we cannot simply stay on the surface of these fire-breathing tweets. I've found that to understand Tesla's true battlefield, we must strip away the emotion and look deeply at seemingly unfavorable regulatory data. Take the recent threat from the California Department of Motor Vehicles, DMV, for example. They claim Tesla allegedly misled consumers when promoting autopilot and FSD features and threatened a 30-day sales ban. This sounds like a massive negative, considering California is the heart of electric vehicles in the US, accounting for about 40% of registrations. But if we delve into the essence of this consumer protection order, you'll find it filled with irony. Tesla pointed out that the order was actually initiated without a single real customer filing a complaint. This disconnect between proactive regulatory action and actual user feedback is something worth reflecting on. More detailed data shows that Tesla has a 90-day compliance window. As long as they adjust their wording, the ban won't actually take effect. Therefore, this is more of a word game regarding definitions rather than a substantive business strangulation. Interestingly, this game between administrative power and market laws is playing out globally. I've noticed a subtle shift happening across the ocean in the EU. After 9 months of lobbying by traditional automakers, the EU is showing signs of abandoning its planned ban on internal combustion engines. This teaches us a profound lesson. Once a forced policy hits the wall of reality, administrative power must ultimately bow to market and technological laws. In the free game of de-administration, true technological barriers are the ultimate factor in determining victory or defeat. So, how deep is Tesla's technological moat? A recent report from Morgan Stanley provides some hardcore dimensions. Morgan Stanley believes the auto industry is approaching an AI-driven tipping point, and Tesla's advantage is broken down into 3 extremely deep dimensions: data, computing power, and algorithms. Let's start with data. Morgan Stanley's evaluation is very sharp. Tesla possesses a volume of data that is better than the sum of all other companies. I must emphasize that this isn't just a simple accumulation of mileage, but driving scenarios with real game logic. While Waymo is still limited to grinding through a few map streets in San Francisco, Tesla's FSD has already traveled through various complex and unknown road conditions globally. Every time a driver intervenes, the system precisely learns how humans handle complex intersection logic. This massive video data learning under shadow mode is something other manufacturers simply cannot reach. Next is the collaborative evolution of computing power and algorithms. While other car companies are still worrying about their procurement quotas for NVIDIA H100 chips, Tesla has already built a massive computing cluster globally through the Dojo supercomputer. The shift at the algorithm level is even more disruptive. Tesla has fully transitioned to end-to-end neural networks. This means the system no longer relies on tens of thousands of lines of deterministic code written by programmers like "stop if you see a red light," but instead mimics the human brain, learning driving logic autonomously through massive video data. However, interestingly, even within Morgan Stanley, which is extremely bullish on Tesla. Their forecast data contains a certain contradictory conservatism. The report predicts that Tesla's autonomous taxi fleet will reach only 1,000 vehicles by 2026 and only 1 million by 2035. I found that this data has been mocked by many veteran investors for a simple reason. Tesla's current global fleet exceeds 6 million vehicles. Once FSD reaches L4 level reliability, the goal of 1 million vehicles could be achieved in 2028 or even earlier through OTA software updates. Morgan Stanley's conservative forecast reflects a typical linear industrial mindset while ignoring the nonlinear characteristics of AI development. Historically, Morgan Stanley even gave Tesla a post-split price target of less than $1, only to be slapped in the face by reality. Now the market is finally waking up, realizing that Tesla isn't selling cars, but mobile terminals carrying AI. To verify this macro data, we must look at FSD performance in the real world. A recent FSD video filmed in a construction zone in a German city has been circulating in the industry. I found that faced with complex construction obstacles, FSD showed a calmness that even surprised humans. It didn't hesitate or test left and right, but steadily identified, waited to yield, and passed elegantly. This zero hesitation decision logic marks that the technology has crossed from simple obstacle avoidance into the stage of understanding social driving rules. In Texas, user feedback presents another nuanced perspective. Many users find that the most notable feeling when riding in a Tesla driven by FSD is stability, with some bloggers even describing the performance as too boring. This is a very intriguing psychological observation. When a technology makes you feel bored, it means you have completely trusted it, just as you never stare at the steel cables when you take an elevator. Even South Korean government officials, after a physical test, remarked that the level of FSD is already better than most human drivers. Once this boring reliability is popularized on a large scale, commuting will no longer be a drain on energy, but a private time for deep thinking or rest. Meanwhile, Tesla's competitors are experiencing a true nightmare. If we think the 30-day ban in California is a hurdle, just look at Detroit and the new EV startups, and you'll understand what despair means. Ford recently announced the cancellation of its all-electric F-150 project and took a massive asset impairment charge of $19.5 billion for it. This is almost equivalent to the entire annual revenue of many mid-sized car companies. Ford's retreat marks the failure of the strategy where traditional giants tried to force their way through the electrification transition with brute force, because consumers simply aren't buying expensive electric pickups that lack an intelligent soul. On the technological path, this divergence is even more brutal. Companies like Rivian still insist on carrying expensive LiDAR on their roofs, trying to solve safety issues through sensing redundancy. But reality is cold. While they hold their ground, Luminar, the benchmark for American LiDAR companies, has already filed for bankruptcy protection. This seems to validate Musk's radical prediction that only fools use LiDAR. Even more ironically, the CEO of ride-sharing giant Lyft recently showed strong skepticism in an interview, asserting that the possibility of autonomous driving replacing humans in the foreseeable future is zero. This collective misjudgment and fear of the future actually highlights just how disruptive what Tesla is doing really is. Of course, we cannot ignore a strong competitor like Waymo. A set of safety data recently released by Waymo is indeed impressive. After driving 127 million miles, the serious injury accident rate was 90% lower than that of human drivers, and injury accidents involving pedestrians were even reduced by 92%. These data prove one thing to global regulators: machines really do drive safer than humans. However, through my analysis, I found that there is a fundamental difference in business models between Waymo and Tesla. Waymo uses a typical heavy asset, heavy mapping model where the sensor cost per vehicle is extremely high and they can only operate within specific mapped areas. In contrast, Tesla adopts a light asset, global access vision solution. Some joke that Waymo is now like a hardworking philanthropist. It is laboriously lobbying governments, nurturing the market, and popularizing safety data in San Francisco and Los Angeles, essentially paving the regulatory road for Tesla's future robotaxi business. Once the regulatory doors are wide open, Tesla's massive existing fleet will only need an OTA update to instantly transform into autonomous taxis. This scale effect is something Waymo will find hard to catch up with. Now let's look at the Chinese market, the core of Tesla's global layout. Although there have been some voices questioning the lack of growth in Tesla's delivery volume in China, a deep study of last month's sales data reveals an overlooked and startling detail. The sales proportion of the Model 3 long-range version has increased significantly, reaching 27%. You have to know that the price of the long-range version is a whole step higher than the rear-wheel drive standard version. The logic change behind this is profound. Chinese consumers are no longer just paying to buy a cheap Tesla. They have started to pursue versions with higher performance and higher configurations. This shift in the product mix has significantly increased Tesla's average selling price, ASP, and per-vehicle profit margin in the Chinese market, meaning its brand is completing an extremely stealthy and successful high-end transformation. At the same time, the Cybertruck's dimensionality reduction strike in the safety field has also received the highest safety rating from the authoritative agency IIHS. In a head-to-head confrontation with veteran pickups like the Ford F-150 and Toyota Tundra, its safety has become the industry benchmark. Finally, I want to pull the perspective a bit further and talk about Musk's controversial wealth and the civilizational logic behind it. Musk's personal wealth recently surpassed $600 billion, but from a deeper defensive logic, this $600 billion isn't cash sitting in a bank. It is unrealized stock appreciation gained from the companies he founded, solving extremely complex engineering problems. These companies have not only created 600,000 jobs, but are also leading humanity toward a multiplanetary civilization. Even more interesting, investment mogul Ron Barron revealed that SpaceX might go public next summer, at which point its valuation could surge straight to $1.5 trillion. If Tesla is the artificial intelligence brain Musk is building on Earth, then SpaceX is the transportation system to the future. Musk once responded to the controversy over his wealth, saying that ironically, FSD, AI, and the Optimus robot will eventually provide all the material needs that people pursue. The information density of this hint is massive. It depicts an endgame in Musk's eyes, when autonomous driving completely solves transportation costs, and when AI robots completely solve labor costs, humanity will enter an era of immense material abundance. In that era, traditional debates about money and taxes will seem trivial. After analyzing all of this, a deep thought occurred to me. In the past, when we looked at car companies, we looked at horsepower, interiors, and brand premiums. Later, when we looked at Tesla, we looked at batteries, chips, and software. But now, we have to change the dimension. What Tesla is doing is essentially the ultimate harvesting of the overall efficiency of human society. When a car is no longer your private property, but an intelligent node that can operate and profit on its own 24 hours a day. When a robot is no longer a rigid machine in a factory, but a digital laborer that can understand the world and replace toil, this transcends mere business competition. It is a species-level evolution. We are in a narrow gap between an old civilization and a new one. On one side are regulatory agencies trying to maintain old rules. On another are traditional powers struggling in massive asset impairments. And on the third side is a group of pioneers who are already bored with and trusting of hyper-efficient technology. In such an era, the most terrifying competitor is not the person who is more hardworking than you, but the person who is redefining the rules and making you feel unreasonable. Tesla is just the first step in Musk's chess game. When AI and automation truly provide everything for humanity, and when labor is no longer a necessity for survival, how will we define the value of our own existence? This might be the most profound and difficult question Tesla leaves us with, beyond the game of technology and capital. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.